Smart Ink, I wasn't originally going to do anything with Smart Ink when Notebook 11 came out. I thought, oh, it's kind of same old, same old. And, I thought that there wasn't really too much to it that was different from the old stuff. But there definitely is some new features, and the more that I've learned about it, the more I'm actually really excited about the changes. I'm going to just check to make sure we don't have any other questions. Looks like yes, we were all sorted and that we all know that we're starting, and that's awesome. If you have any questions, do pop them into the questions box while we're working, and I will answer them as we go along. I have built-in breaks for that. So what's this new Smart Ink all about? In doing a webinar myself with some of the product developers of Smart Ink, I really liked how he mentioned the goal of what Smart Ink was, and it was to have your ink stay on your screen where you want it for as long as you'd like it for. It does replace our old digital ink overlay and the Ink Aware. The digital ink overlay was that gray bar that went around the outside when we were writing on applications outside of Notebook. And you'd put your pen down and then you'd get a little memo at the side saying, do you want to restore your ink? And it could be really challenging at times. So this has replaced all of working with the ink outside of Notebook, working with this new version of Smart Ink. It's designed to annotate, make notes, and highlight ideas and to emphasize points as we would with any digital ink in general. And then we can convert writing into text and then save our annotations into our files. And let's move forward. Here we go. So some of the features, the dedicated digital ink for each application window, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So you can have digital ink on your internet page or on your file folders or inside a Microsoft Office application, and that ink will stay within that application. So you can switch back and forth between apps and it won't be an issue. And you can also use the application's native inking tools. So we're going to take a look in a minute at Microsoft Office, and they have embedded inking tools, and it really enhances what we're doing. We can take desktop notes. So this was one of the things that really surprised some of the first people that, started to play with the new features. They would, normally, account managers in my company or in other companies to model digital ink would just write a note on the desktop, and that was the first thing that changes because now there's little sticky notes. So we're going to take a look at those. The handwriting recognition, so you're converting your digital handwriting into text, and we've seen that before, but it's actually changed to really being quite funky. And then in Windows applications, we now have a PDF document viewer. So you can write and annotate on PDF files with digital ink and then save the digital ink as part of the document. So we're going to take a look at all of these. Some of the enhancements, particularly with something like the handwriting recognition, really got a lot better with the Smart Notebook or the Education Wrapper and the Service Pack 1 that came out either just before Christmas or just after Christmas. My memory escapes me at this point. And so some of the things that were really improved in the new Service Pack. So if you or your IT teams at your schools haven't done the Service Pack update, the ink definitely was one of the big improvements. The other one was that Notebook 11 launches a lot quicker. So the other thing I'll point out, in case some of you weren't aware, was that the Smart Ink comes as part of Notebook 11 and the Smart Product Drivers that you get, Smart Product Drivers 2012. So it's built in to what you get automatically. So you don't need to worry about a separate installation. It's just part of what you get with the package. So the Smart Ink toolbar. I'm going to show you some ways to change the settings because this is something that is causing some people a little bit of grief sometimes, is this green note there that we have, or this green icon right here that allows us to know when Smart Ink is open and that we're plugged into a smartboard when we see that. Then when it goes yellow is when we're unplugged from a smartboard. So we might take our documents home or our work home and we'll see this yellow toolbar. So what is that all about? So we're going to take a look at just those simple features to start with. So I'm going to just open up a folder. Oh, and we're flickering a tiny bit. I don't know if you're seeing that. Well, that's a little bizarre. I'm just going to see what I can do about that flickering. I've got a question at the same time. I'm just going to unplug this and re-plug it. I apologize. I'm plugged into a podium right now, so I don't know if that's what's causing my issues or if it's my computer. And I think it's obviously my computer, which I apologize for. I have questions, and I'm wondering if it's about my flickering. Oh, you don't have flickering there? Okay, then I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to pretend I don't have flickering, which is great. So here I am inside a notebook, or a Windows document folder here, and I can see that I have my Smart Ink options at the top right-hand side. So I can choose the pen. Oh, let me grab my pen. There we go. And I can begin to take notes. This is going to stay here for as long as I want it to stay. Not an issue to keep it there. I now have the option to capture these notes, and they will go into Notebook. Let me do one more little capture. There we go. It will come into Notebook. There it is. And I can keep those now. But they're still in my folder, so I can keep those notes for as long as I need to. Now when I decide that I'm done with these notes, I can hit Clear Ink, or I can pick up my eraser or anything like that, and then I just need to remember to go back to my Select tool as you would with every other application. Now if I unplug from my smartboard or my podium or something like that, this will then go yellow. So now you can see it's gone yellow, and it'll say no smartboard interactive products are connected. And so when I'm at home, I can hit erase and hide, and that will go away. So I don't have to have it bothering me, and then as soon as I come back and I plug my computer back into the smartboard, my green comes back. So that's very, very useful. So I'm just going to check my questions here to see if there is any questions about that. How do you get the toolbar? Well, the toolbar is embedded as part of your documents. So no matter what you open, so I'm going to open up an internet page here, you can see that I've got the Smart Ink toolbar up at the top. It will always be there when you plug yourself into a smartboard and you've got your smart product drivers launched. You can see here I'm grabbing by these dimples, and I can move this around. So if it's in the way of something, I can move that around. There are some options here that I'm going to show you as well. There's some settings that you can change. Does the Smart Ink still work at home when it is yellow? That's a really good question. Thanks, Deirdre. The Smart Ink will actually only work at home if you're plugged into a smartboard, or a podium. So right now I'm plugged into a smart product, my podium, and so I see it green. But if I come home, I've unplugged from my USB, and it's still green because it was there for a few minutes, but now you can see that it's gone yellow, and I don't have the options to have my Smart Ink working. I can, however, grab from my toolbar and still, from my floating tools, for instance, and I should still be able to do my inking. Right now it's not letting me do that, but that is generally the idea. And then if you're in Notebook, I can still grab my pen tools within Notebook. For the most part, I don't see that people need to have the digital ink when they're not attached to their smartboard. I know when I've needed to do things and model how to do digital ink or color to do erase to reveals, I would do all the work at home and then come to work and then plug in my smartboard and do that last little piece with the digital ink once I'm attached to my smartboard. Does it work if you... It doesn't work if you say, I'm not quite sure what your question there is, Lori. It's phrased a little bit interesting. It doesn't work if you say keep on. So I'm not quite sure what your question is. So if you can retype that for me, Lori, that would be really great. So long story short, all you need to know is that when you are plugged into your smartboard, you will see it green. When you're not plugged into your smartboard, you'll see it yellow, and you have the option to keep on, so it'll stay yellow, or to erase and hide. So that's really all you need to know about those functions there. And you can keep those questions populated over at the side. We'll look at one more before we look at the, I'm not attached to a smartboard right now, but I can't even get the yellow menu. So if you haven't had your computer plugged into a smartboard for a while, you won't be able to launch that. It'll only go yellow just after you've unplugged it, just like you saw with me. So here I'm going to just go to my desktop right here, and here you can see that it's gone green again because I've plugged my Podium back in. As soon as I take it out, and usually it's after I've navigated away, it's now yellow. But if I haven't had my computer plugged into my smartboard for a while, or if I restart my computer, this won't pop up. And it won't pop up until you plug it back in to your Podium or your smartboard, and then it'll pop up and show green. So you won't be able to see it right now if you're not attached to a smartboard, if you haven't been attached to a smartboard for a while. Going to just check a few other questions. Oh, let's have a look at this. Oopsies, there we go. Does it allow you to use the Smart Ink tools? Yes, you can use your Smart Ink tools outside of Notebook just as you can at any other time. Does the Smart Ink work with the document camera? Absolutely. I don't have mine plugged in right now, but if you were to bring in a blank page and activate your document camera, then absolutely you can use your inking tools if you're working within Notebook. And if you're not working within Notebook, if you're using a dual VGA for some reason, then you can absolutely use your inking tools outside in that dual VGA screen. So those will be totally usable for sure. The one thing I will show you, there's just delete this one page here. The one thing I will show you with the Smart Ink menu, on the Windows side, you do have some options to change some settings. On the Mac side, the settings aren't available yet, but I know that they're working on a variety of different things. So if I hit this drop-down menu when the Smart Ink icon is green, I'm just going to move this over to the side a little bit. Here I have my capture option, so if I want to bring that right into Notebook. If I have the clear ink option, so if I've written all over this and I just want to do a big clear ink all at once, like I would in Notebook with my blue tornado here, I can use that clear ink function. And then under here I have settings. So if you click on the settings, and this is what I wasn't fully aware of when I started to work with Smart Ink, so it wasn't until I had my webinar that it helped me to realize what was going on. Here I have an option to hide Smart Ink toolbars, but enable drawing over windows. So if I click that off, what that allows me to do is my Smart Ink tools will be active, but I won't be able to see them. So some people were getting frustrated with having a whole bunch of documents open and having the Smart Ink toolbar be everywhere you go. So I'm going to hit apply, and now you can see my green Smart Ink toolbar has gone away. But if I come back to the internet, I can still grab my tools. I'm going to use my floating tools. And then you can see just as I started writing it popped up, but if I come back to my libraries, it's gone. So you won't see that Smart Ink tools until you actually start to do something. And then it'll pop up, and then as soon as you're done, it'll go away. So for those of us who really weren't so thrilled with seeing this green Smart Ink everywhere you went, that's now your option to get rid of that. I'm going to bring my Smart Settings back up, and I'm going to keep my Smart Ink toolbars on so that you can see the windows when I'm working with them. Drop shadows on Smart Ink, so this is a 3D appearance. That's just personal preference, I think. Clear ink notes after they've inserted as text. So this is if you've inserted text, and I'm going to show you that in a minute, it will automatically erase and clear the ink notes as soon as you've converted them to typed text. So if you're going to do that a lot, that might be useful. Then we're going to look at Microsoft Office in a little bit and some of the settings that you can have with Microsoft Office. So these are really, really wonderful for us to have those options to have a little bit more flexibility when we're working with Smart Ink. So I'm going to come back to my select tool here, and I'm going to show you one of the next features. I do see that there's some questions, but I'm going to show you the Smart Ink desktop notes first, and then we're going to take some more questions. So Smart Ink desktop notes, basically what we used to get on our desktop was the option to have our digital ink layer and to have us start to just write anywhere on the desktop. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to start to get a Smart Ink note. It looks like a little sticky note. And I can create one, or I can create multiple, and they will go for a very long time. If you need more space, very long notes, it will just automatically resize this for the size that you need. Now what I can do is I can capture these, and it'll capture one at a time. And I'm going to capture the next one. And now if I come back to Notebook, I now have a note there and a note there. So as soon as I'm done with the notes on my page, they're all sitting there. The other option you have in your Smart Settings now is Smart realized with this new Service Pack that sometimes trainers like myself would want to be able to show some notes here to show teachers, for instance, where to open up Notebook, or any trainer who was working with computer applications. Now if I come to my settings, one of my options is the Smart Ink Note opacity. So I can change it to be more opaque. And now these new notes are going to be, this is going to be now very faint. And so now the trainer or teacher in question has the ability to put this opaque sticky note right next to whatever they're trying to model. So that is very, very useful for us to be able to have that option of these little sticky notes as we work in Notebook. So I'm going to take, or outside of Notebook, I'm going to take some questions. Okay. And for whatever reason, there we go. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Question, how well does the Smart Ink work on, actually I'm going to come back up, yeah. How well does the Smart Ink Note work on the Mac side? The Smart Ink works exactly the same on the Mac side as what I'm modeling. There are a few differentiations as far as Microsoft Office and that Settings tab and working with the internet, and I'm going to show those as we go along. And then at the very end, I'm going to show you I have a compatibility matrix that will be part of the support document that I post on my website. And it'll show you when and where you can use and what applications you can use the Smart Ink or the Microsoft Ink for. If you erase and hide, does that erase all the ink or just getting rid of the ability to use ink? That's a good question. So the question is, does it erase and hide? I'm going to unplug my podium for a second here. And is it going to erase and hide my ability to ink? So if I erase and hide, it's just going to get rid of that yellow. It doesn't get rid of my option to ink. And that's just when I'm unplugged from the smartboard. I just get rid of that, and I'm just erasing that yellow Smart Ink tool, and I'm not able to ink using my floating tools, but I am able to ink once I'm in Notebook. So you can always ink in Notebook. Any ideas how long the Mac functions will come out? I don't have a timeline. That was my question on my call as well. I do know that there are certain things that they are working on. Most of what we're looking at, with the exception of the Office application and the PDF viewer, those will, everything will be exactly the same. I do know that it is something that they're working on. does it automatically open to that sticky note, or is there a special tool to do that? So that is a really good question. So I'm going to model through that one more time. And I don't have to do anything special other than, let me just move this off to the side here. All I did was change, and I'll use my floating tools. Now you can see I'm using a pen. And all I did was then start writing. And then if I wanted a second sticky note, I just move my pen over to a different spot and I start writing. And because I changed my opacity earlier, I now can see they're very see-through. So I can now do another one over here. Oopsies, I ended up doing more than one. And so now I've got all of these. I can, as you saw, either capture them into Notebook, or once I'm done, so I know some people are already using these as, oopsies, I go back to my select tool. I know some people are already using these as a way to just to take mental notes throughout the day, or to have the kids put sticky notes on the smartboard. So there's a lot of different ways that you could use these notes. It could be brainstorming. You know, there's lots of Web 2.0 applications that are, you know, post a sticky note. So if you can't get out to the internet, you could have it just be straight on your smartboard. So that's a really good, yeah, absolutely. I see some notes here really good for brainstorming with kids. That's exactly it. So you could use it as a brainstorming tool. You can use it as all sorts of other things. I assume you can manually sort with the select tool. Yes, I think I know what you're saying, Deirdre. So if I have some notes here, and then some notes here, and then if I go back to my select tool, I can then drag this around. And I'm using the top part of the bar here right next to where it says Smart Ink Note. So then I can reorganize, and then there's a dimple at the bottom right-hand side that would allow me to resize. So I can make that smaller if I need to. And then when I'm done, I hit my X's and it'll go away, or I can use that capture to go into Notebook. Okay, next part, we're going to move on from the Smart Ink Notes because those are pretty cool, but we're all done with those for now. And I'm going to move on to the next section, which is using Smart Ink and the internet. So obviously using Web 2.0 tools, using the internet for teaching is really, really important. Microsoft, with Internet Explorer, we have some additional options when you use Internet Explorer, but everything works as it would with any internet application. So I'm actually going to model that with both Chrome and with Internet Explorer. So one of the great things about using using Internet Explorer, and I'm going to use the weather as an example, is if you're using Internet Explorer on a Microsoft machine, you can write digital ink notes, and you can have the ink travel with your document. So that was something that I didn't know too much about until I had my training. And the weather is taking an awfully long time to load, so I am going to go to the news instead and see if that comes just a little bit quicker. So using Microsoft, and I'm going to use Google for something else, but using Microsoft Internet Explorer really has the benefit of your ink traveling with your document. While Microsoft Explorer is loading, I'm going to use just Google Chrome. One of the things that was super, super cool with this latest upgrade, with this Service Pack 1 that I was mentioning, was when you're using your digital ink, so let's say I want to search dinosaur with my students, I come back to my select tool and I tap this ink. Now I'm going to type where it says the type text symbol, and I touch where I would like to insert this text. It's going to fly into my search panel, and now I can hit my search button and hit my X. And now I have my search options. I didn't have to launch my on-screen keyboard. I didn't have to do anything other than just write that. So I'm going to do that one more time. This is in any application, Windows or Mac. going to grab my pen and I'm going to search this time maybe for whales. So now I've written my word. I go back to my select tool. I tap on the word whale and I hit my double A's to convert it to typed text. Then I get the message to touch where I would like to insert the text, and it will fly into that search bar, and now I can search whale. And now I'm done with whale, so I can hit the red X. But if you remember in our Smart Ink settings, I had the option to clear ink notes as soon as after they've been inserted as text. So that's this option down here on the bottom. So what that would mean was that after I wrote the word whale, it would go away as digital ink as soon as I've inserted it as typed text. So that's a great option to have if that's something you think you're going to do quite often. You can even write an entire URL if you feel like it. So you could write smarttech.com, go back to my cursor, tap on my text, insert where you'd like that to go, and it might not have liked my .com there, but that's okay, it got me close enough and I can grab it from there. So that is in any internet, or actually any application outside of Notebook, you have the ability to change that to typed text as I just modeled. In Internet Explorer, you have the option to do the exact same thing, but also to have your ink travel with your document. So let's say we wanted our kids to do some current events. What you would be able to do would be, okay, I want group number 1 to work on the water main break. And then you might want, oh, and my webinar tools are in the way of my scrolling. There we go. Then I might want, oh, you know, group number 2, I want you to write about how Queen Beatrix abdicated in favor of her son. And you'll have to research some Dutch royal laws, etc. And then if I scroll back up to talk to my group 1, my ink is still there. Now, just like with everything else that you've done with Smart Ink, I can grab my capture from here, and it will capture my stuff into Notebook. I'm going to come into Notebook, and it's only going to capture what's on your screen. So I can see number 1. If I wanted to see number 2, I would have to scroll down. Where is Princess? There we go, Queen Beatrice, and I will capture. And that will put it onto another page automatically. You can always use your screen capture as well from your side tabs. And you can either grab your eraser from your toolbar, or you can just hit clear ink from here and it will get rid of everything, including what's up at the top. If you hit clear ink, it'll get rid of everything. So that's where using Microsoft Internet Explorer attached to your smartboard can be beneficial. And again, I have the compatibility matrix to let you know what versions of Internet Explorer and what versions of Notebook, versions of Windows you need to be using to make that happen. So we just had a look, and now we'll do a question check before we go off to Microsoft. So let's have a look here at some of our questions. Okay. You missed, so I'm going to show you the type text tool one more time just in case. Belinda, you only have capture and clear ink as options when you tap on the green ink bar. That could be because you don't have the new service pack. So the new service pack 1, and I can get the exact release date if you need, the new service pack 1 came out with these options for these new settings. So if you don't have those, then that's one way to know that you've got the older version, and there are a few finicky items with the digital ink. So that's certainly something to encourage the idea of having, and I had a hand raised, but I'm not quite sure why. So if you can just write me a question, that would be great. So upgrading to the service pack, again, it's a free upgrade, and it does improve usability quite a bit. If you're using Mac Mountain Lion, you definitely want to be on Service Pack 1 because that will eliminate you know, the crashing that was occurring. So yes, absolutely, teacher who had Notebook 11 and lots of ink issues, and you install Service Pack 1 and things are better. So the two big things that were changed with Service Pack 1 were some finicky things with ink, and then some issues with starting up Notebook. So the next piece we're going to talk about is using Smart Ink and Microsoft Office. Microsoft Office does have embedded ink tools, and one of the things that came out of working on Smart Ink was, you know, why is Smart reinventing the wheel with their own ink when a lot of applications have embedded ink? So that's where using the embedded ink, particularly right now with Microsoft Ink, you know, that's something that is really, really useful. The big feature now, again, works very well with this service pack, is that the ink will travel with the document as you scroll when you use Microsoft Ink. And these are Windows only just now. Kind of same with the Internet Explorer. There is an idea to have this in other applications. One thing that I was told from our developers about the idea of having the ink features like traveling on other internet browsers was that the whole code needs to be written from scratch. So, you know, just because it's working on Internet Explorer doesn't mean that it's easily transferable to Google Chrome, for instance. It needs to be completely redone. So that's why right now it's just Internet Explorer with the plans of expanding out to other things. So if you're planning on opening up a Microsoft Office application, so this is Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you definitely want, if you want the Microsoft Ink, if you want to be able to write up all over the document and maybe save the ink as part of the document, then you want to use Microsoft Ink. If you just want to write a few quick notes to your students and you want to maybe capture them into Notebook, then you use Smart Ink. And Microsoft Ink is the one where it's going to travel with us. So I'm going to open up a Word document here so we can have a look at what this looks like. So here's just a rubric that I could potentially be showing to my students. And you can see up here at the top right-hand side that I've got Microsoft Ink. So Microsoft Ink will be the default to start in Office when you, unless you tell it to otherwise, you turn on the Smart Ink if you want to use Smart Ink. You also have the Office Pens tab that you can add, and it'll add just another tab over at the side here. So what this allows me to do is this allows me to ink on this page, and you can see here I'm getting an option, use the Microsoft Pens ribbon to choose ink colors. So my pen options will look like this. So I can have a ballpoint pen, and so I can take some notes in here that looks like a ballpoint pen. I can use a felt tip pen, or I can grab my pens from the side tab. Let me grab this one. Oh, no, it's not letting me grab that, so I'm going to have to grab them from the top. I can also grab the Microsoft Ink highlighter. I can choose my colors from here. So if I wanted my felt tip to be a different color. But now if I come back to my select tool and I begin to scroll, my ink travels with my document. And now if I do, and I would usually recommend a file and a save as with the addition of the ink, it will save these pieces of ink as images within this document. And if I don't want to save it, I can just hit, I can grab my eraser. Oh, my ink tools went away, but that's okay. I can grab my eraser. And here are my eraser tools. And I can erase just like I would within my Notebook. So it feels exactly like Notebook when you're working with it. The other thing you can do if you want to convert to type text like we did with on the internet page is we can change it to Smart Ink. So now that I'm in Smart Ink, I'm going to choose a pen here, and I could go, oh, I'm still on my eraser, and let's choose my pen. Oh, let's go back to Microsoft. Oh, maybe it'll let me do it now. There we go. So now if I want to convert to type text, I can just tap on this guy, hit my double A's. Sorry, it's not letting me switch back to my select tool. There we go. Now I hit my 2 A's. This is very odd. Let me just use my mouse. I'm going to tap on this, type my double A's, touch where you'd like to insert the text, and it'll fly. And I don't know why it went down there, but it could be because this is a table and that's how it goes. But you get the general idea of how this would work. I'm not going to save the changes, but I'm going to take some questions right now. I am going to show you Excel and PowerPoint as well, but I'm going to take some questions just to start with because this is different. Okay. Are you using the Smart Ink on a smartboard right now? I use Smart Ink tools with a tablet and a projector. Will the Smart Ink work with the tablet and the projector? It depends. If you're using a Smart Slate, then yes, it would do the exact same thing. It would just depend on what tablet you were using. So why don't you email me that question separately and give me a few more details to let me know more specifically what it is. I personally right now am using a Podium just because it was easier than working with the smartboard, so I could be closer to my microphone. So my Podium is acting like it would with a smartboard. So depending on what that tablet was, that would definitely make a difference here. So if I were writing, say for instance, same thing, I'm using my Microsoft Ink Notes here in an Excel spreadsheet, but if you wanted to have the ability to insert typed text, which a lot of us were used to, especially with Excel, if you wanted to put some information into a cell, for instance, so if you wanted to add a number into that cell, what you can do is you can write and then come back to your select tool, tap on what you've just typed, hit your double A's for typed text, touch where you'd like to insert it, and it'll fly into that cell. So, and again, if I have my option set up so that as soon as I insert my typed text, it's going to clear the ink, that would go away immediately. So that's very useful if you want to use cells. Are there ink tools in Microsoft for Mac? No, that's something that I asked as well during my webinar. It is not something that they have developed yet, the ability to talk to the Mac side of the ink notes. Sometimes Mac puts some specific restrictions, and so right now your Smart Ink works perfectly in Office for Mac, just not the Microsoft Ink is not embedded as part of Mac yet. Does the ink travel with the document when using Smart Ink in Microsoft? If I'm using, that's a really good question. So if I just write a note in Smart Ink in an Excel or a PowerPoint or a Word document, and I'm using Smart Ink here, it will not travel. It will stay where I put it on this document. So if I were to now scroll, oh, and my pen's still on, let's come back to my select tool. Actually, let me clear ink just one more time. I'll write some notes, and then I'll come back to my select tool. And if I start to scroll, you can see that the Microsoft notes, which are here, are staying with the document, but the Smart Ink notes that are here are traveling with the screen. So back to this original slide here, you want to use Microsoft Ink if you want to ink all over the entire document and have it scroll and potentially save that ink. And you want to use the Smart Ink to take quick notes, converting to typed text, and or capture notes to Smart Notebook. So if I just wanted to capture this or insert this as typed text, then I want to use Smart Ink. But if I want the ink to travel with my document and then be saved as part of my document, then I want to use Microsoft Ink. And just as I was here, I can flip back and forth. I can turn off Smart Ink and turn on Microsoft Ink. So let me just do that one more time. I'm going to turn off Smart Ink, and it goes to Microsoft Ink. And then when I want to convert to typed text, I can turn Smart Ink back on. So it's really quick to switch back and forward between the two. It's very worthwhile. I'm going to show PowerPoint next, just because there's a few different things about PowerPoint. The idea is exactly the same, however, that you use Microsoft Ink to ink up the entire document and have your ink travel with the document and potentially save that ink, and you use Smart Ink to take your quick notes, convert to typed text, and or capture notes into Smart Notebook. What you do have with PowerPoint that's different from the other Office applications is the Smart Ink presentation toolbar. So when you go into a PowerPoint slideshow, you actually can get the Smart Ink toolbar. And with your settings, we now have the opportunity to change the direction of where the toolbar is so it doesn't cover up any content. It gives you a new pointer to highlight for remote participants, so you'd get a green that would look like this. Slide number indicator and your ink tools or Office ink tools as well. So I'm just going to open up a PowerPoint here, and this is, say for instance, just a Jeopardy template. Now let's say you wanted your kids to participate and add some questions in. I'm just going to come into slideshow, however, so you can see what would happen. Slide navigation is disabled and you're unable to add ink to this document. Oh, I missed that warning. I wasn't sure what that was about. Let's try this one more time. So I think because there's some animation here, I missed that warning really quickly. I'm just going to exit out of this slideshow, and let's just open up a new PowerPoint. We'll just open up a blank presentation, and we'll just add some new slides, and let's show it from here. My apologies, I didn't realize that there was that option. Here we go. So here's my new toolbar. I can turn on my really big pointer. So there's my really big pointer. I can use my PowerPoint ink tools. So this will give me those ink tools that are going to travel with my slides. And then if I go forwards and backwards, my notes are still on that same page. Or if I wanted to insert a new slide, I can from there. And I can have my PowerPoint menu, a transparent toolbar, my vertical toolbar. If I undo that, it changes it to the opposite direction, as you can see. When I leave my presentation mode, I get the options to keep or discard those annotations. So I'm going to keep those for now. Let's go back into slideshow view. And let's say that if I did want, whoopsies, if I did want to use Smart Ink to insert some typed text, I can change from the top here, or when I'm in presentation mode, to use Smart Ink, and then that would give me the option to use my Smart Ink and then convert it to typed text like that. And I really like let's do that one more time. There we go. I really like the tapping where the ink goes and having it fly into the right spot. I really think that that's a very, very cool tool. So this is something just to play with and change it around. This was something that was also enhanced in Service Pack 1 to make it a lot easier to work with. I'm just going to double check that in our settings we might have some options. So my Microsoft Office settings are my second tab, and I can either show the Smart Ink toolbar for PowerPoint in presentation mode, or I can uncheck that and it'll use your normal PowerPoint. And then you can also change it if you know you want to use converting to typed text, or if you want to just put in some quick notes. you can use Smart Ink as the default in Microsoft Office applications, so you don't have to switch back and forth if you know you want to use Smart Ink. So those are some options there for you as well in the settings function when you're working in a Windows machine. So I'm going to check if we have any questions, and it looks like we do. So someone's saying they don't see the efficiency of the ink in Excel. Well, it depends on what you're using Excel for. I know myself, I didn't use Excel often as a grade 1 teacher, but I know, for instance, you know, it was developed really as the idea with a lot of corporations. If they were doing something exactly like this, if they were doing budgets, you could also do this if you were working as out of budget as a staff, and you could put this up on the smartboard and work together. So depending on what you would use Excel for, it might be faster and easier to get out the on-screen keyboard or be it your keyboard to type. That's just personal preference as to what you think might work best if you were using Excel for whatever reason. So it's best to use Microsoft Ink if you want the ink to stick, absolutely. If you want your ink to stay in its spot in an Office application, you do want to be using Microsoft Ink for sure. One of the last things to show, and it's honestly one of my absolute favorites, again, this is a Windows only feature, and I definitely made some noises about hoping this would be a Mac feature very, very soon, is the Smart Ink Document Viewer. If any of you were doing any installations on your computers with Notebook 11, you were asked during the installation process on a Windows machine if you wanted to make the Smart Ink Document Viewer your default PDF viewer. Most people said no, but you can still use it anyway. And what this is it's an opportunity to open up an Adobe PDF file and put digital ink on it, have the ink stay in its spot, and then you can save the PDF with the digital ink in it, just like you would with the Microsoft Office stuff that we saw. So this is for PDF documents. Now, I personally don't have it set up so that my default PDF viewer is Microsoft or Notebook, and that's okay. If you don't have it set up so that your default PDF viewer is Notebook, you can still use, and I'm just going to open up this file, you can still use the Smart Ink Document Viewer when you are working in a Windows machine. So here you can see Adobe Acrobat document. That would be the normal way to open up this document. And I'm actually going to come into here and get up an assessment Blackline Master here. Let's open up this rubric. So normally if I were just to double click on this, it would open it up in Adobe Acrobat. However, if I right click on that document and I were to go to where it says Open With, it's going to show me all the possible applications that can open up a PDF, and so I'm going to open this up in the Smart Ink Document Viewer. And when I do that, it'll open up and launch that application. Here it comes. So you can see up here at the top right, it says the Smart Ink Document Viewer, and I now have the option to, and I wanted to use my floating tools and I don't know where they are. So I'm just going to, there we go, here are my floating tools. Grab a pen, and now I can take my notes. I can grab my highlighter, so skills enforced are related to targeted skill or concept. This is actually an evaluation rubric for apps, which is a good one to have. I can go through and we can evaluate a rubric together up on the smartboard or anything like that, but then as soon as I use my scroll bar, this ink stays with the document. So this is a document that was created by Henry Walker, and I will give him his due diligence, and it was on many, many websites. And then you could use this so you're evaluating, say, the Toontastic app. Actually, if I were evaluating the Toontastic app, I would probably give it, I would move it to a different, and give them some more snaps here. But you could do this together up on the board as a group, And then if you wanted to save this as digital ink, all you would have to do is hit the save button there, or I'm a big fan of the save as option. The other thing that's happening a lot in a lot of spaces is the idea of using the PDF to actually do a digital signature. So you could use this as the option to put in an actual proper signature if you needed to sign off as a document. So I know that that was something that was definitely looked at as an option with using the Smart Ink document viewer. So I'm not going to save my changes because that would save it with my ink embedded into it, and I don't want to do that. Now I could open this up in normal Adobe without any issues, and I would still be able to do the exact same things as I did before. However, this ink would not travel with this document. It would stay in this one spot. And it's ink that's movable like this. It's an object like other objects that we would get using Smart Ink. But you can still totally use just normal Smart Ink if you don't plan on saving that ink. So that's kind of the rule of thumb, is if you want to save the ink and embed it, you want to use one of the special features, and if not, then you can just use the normal Smart Ink. So I'm going to take a pause for our questions now. I'll just bring in a blank page so we can see them. Okay, Toontastic is amazing. Yes, the Smart Ink document viewer, the PDF viewer, is not available for Mac at this time. Definitely make some noises. Send your emails off to feature requests for Smart and let them know you want it for Notebook for Mac for sure. Toontastic is amazing. The default, I'm not sure. The default will be, if it's for a PDF, unless you make changes, when you're installing Notebook on a Windows machine, you will get asked the question, do you want to make the Smart Ink document viewer the default PDF viewer? You have that question. Most IT teams will take care of that for you, and so you'll probably just, your IT team will probably say no, and that your Adobe is going to be your default, and that's where using your drop-down menu, so right-click and open with. And you want to right-click and open with Smart Ink Document Viewer. Now if you think that you want to use Smart Ink Document Viewer all the time as your PDF, on a Windows machine you can come to the Start button and you can just hit Default Programs, and you can change your default program to be anything that you'd like, including the Smart Ink Document Viewer for PDF files. So that's an option there as well. I see one more question. I'm so glad that I can write on the PDF and move along with scrolling. However, I don't seem to see where I can use the Smart Ink. So if you just want Smart Ink on a PDF, then you can just open it up in Adobe Acrobat, and now you can see, or whatever your default PDF is, and now you can see my Smart Ink options. But if I open up a PDF in Smart Ink Document Viewer, I'm going to go open with Smart Ink Document Viewer. Then my ink tools are kind of already embedded here. So what you use when you're connected to your smartboard, I use my floating tools. So you don't have a toolbar up at the top like we have with all of our other applications. You just use your floating tools to grab any ink that you would like, and now this can travel with your document, as we've had a look at. So I just use my floating tools for that. Oh, and I didn't want to save that because I don't want to save this ink, but this is the document I want us to have a look at. So last piece of the puzzle is, when am I going to use what? And so what to use when is my question. So that's why I developed this functionality matrix, and I asked Smart if they developed anything similar, and they hadn't at the time. So I passed this along to Smart, and I've been told that this is absolutely what is necessary and was very well laid out. So this is going to be shared on our website, and I'm going to show you where. And basically it's giving you options what you'd like to do, so your desired function, what you should use, your options for the operating system, and then if there's anything special that you can do. So this goes along with exactly what we just went through. So jotting your note on the desktop, use the Smart Ink note, Windows or Mac. Write a quick note in any application when the ink doesn't move with the scrolling, Smart Ink, Windows or Mac. And it goes on, and you'll get a copy of this from the website if you need it. But it gives you some specifics here. So if you want to write on the internet page and have the ink stay with the document when you're scrolling, you want to use the Smart Ink, but in Internet Explorer 8 or higher. So I got some information from Smart about which operating systems. Or Microsoft Office application, you want the ink to stay with the document, use Microsoft Ink, Windows 7 or 8, and Office 2007, 2012. I am getting clarification about Vista for this particular question right here for using Microsoft Office if you've got a Vista's machine. So this goes through everything that we just went through and what you'd want to use and when. So sometimes it's a little bit of flipping back and forth, but for the most part it'll become a little bit more instinctive for you. The use of Smart Ink, many teachers like to open a textbook as a PDF as it's available to show students how to make notes, etc. Absolutely. Judy, you might have to send me a specific question about what's going on. Maybe your floating tools, you might have to launch them from your Smartboard tools down at the bottom. So send me a specific email as to what might be happening, so I can answer your question. I think that's all the questions asked. Thank you very much for those of you who had to leave and already said thank you. I'm very happy to have you all join me, of course. The archive of this will be posted at my YouTube channel, so that's youtube.com/Sasha Tech 1. That has changed for some of you who've been paying attention to me for a little bit. I did have to move my YouTube channel, so within the next day or so I'll be posting it there. So youtube.com/Sasha Tech 1, and all the other webinars have been posted there as well, so help yourself. I do plan on making shorter snippets of going through each one of these individually to show each one of these tools one at a time. And then where the support document for this is going to be, including that matrix that I just showed you, is going to be at my company's website, so that's sharpsav.com/education. And then here where it says events and webinars is where I put some notes about the webinars that are coming up. And then the webinar archives you can grab from here as well. And then the webinar support documents. I will post the specific stuff for the Smart Ink webinar on this part of the website. So if you just click education, sharpsav.com/education, and you click on events and webinars, you're going to get to exactly where you need to go. So I'm going to take one last question here, I think. Creating answer keys, absolutely. Absolutely. In a Mac world, it's still working really well for me in Mac using Smart Ink in my area capture. It's working really, really well. And just a few things we need to tweak to get the ink to travel in the Mac environment and make your noise with Smart and have them, send emails to the request team, and they will definitely be looking at that. So thank you all for spending a little bit of an hour with me, and I appreciate you all joining, and hope everyone learned a little bit, and I look forward to seeing lots of you in person in the next little while. Thank you.